Welcome back to Built to Ship, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with founders and product leaders, shipping real AI products into the world. I'm your host, Tyler Postal from Voker, and today I'm excited to be joined by Deniz, co-founder of Lemon Health, an AI health companion that's designed to help people not just track their health, but also take action towards better outcomes. Deniz, it's great to have you here.
Super happy to have you as well.
Awesome. Well, why don't we start a bit about the founding story? What made you, get excited about building an AI for your health, and what were you doing before Lemon Health?
Yeah, so my founding story, actually I've been 2 times at Google. The first time, I was part of a team that launched the Google Assistant. The second time I was part of a team that launched Gemini. So 2 generations of assistant. And now, Lemon Health is another like AI health companion. So it's a companion. So, I've been in the business of creating companions for people quite a lot. Part of the founding story is actually at Google. Last time I was at Google, before launching Gemini and being part of DeepMind, I was leading a health team, And then as part of the health team, I launched a program I call Habit Formations. How do we change the habits of our users so that they can actually achieve their health goals? That was very interesting. I was doing partnerships with Fitbit and many teams across Google. And one of the things we learn, is by interviewing like hundreds of users, is like when you ask them, what is your number one need? They don't tell you, oh, my number one need is to see how many steps I've done, or to see yet another biomarker, or, to see more insight about myself. Sure, this is useful, but this is not the number one need. The number one need is actually help me take action. They know they need to take actions for their health, right? But everyone kind of sometimes struggle to follow through, right? So that's the need number one. And I thought like, the market, is not addressing that correctly. Everyone is spending effort on like showing more insight to you, but not helping you actually take actions. So we decided to create Lemon Health with my co-founder, who also was on the funding team of Google Assistant. And decided to tackle on this problem, like how do we help people take actions in order to improve their health.
Amazing. I love that you have, not just background in, AI and assistants and companions, but also specifically in this vertical. So you have like real user interviews, real user feedback. And frankly, I resonate with that challenge of like, it's not about tracking my sleep better or something like that. It's just really getting the motivation or the assistance to really achieve the goals that I have. That's great. So tell us a little bit about who's your, ideal user of Lemon Health. Is it someone who's like a top tier athlete? Is it someone who's just an everyday person like me that's spending probably too much time sitting in a chair and not enough time working out? Who's Lemon Health built for?
Yeah, we could have gone through like, all kind of users, the professional athletes or the people who are more at the beginning of the journey. What we found, when we look at the users out there is like, there are people who are going to ignore their health, whatever, whatever the circumstances, however you want to help them motivated and denial about their health, they're not going to do anything. So we ignore these users. There are people who are very like advanced, proactive about their health, and they're already like advanced athletes, and they don't need help to take more actions. They're already taking a lot of actions. But then there's this big bucket in the middle. Those are the people who actually have the intent of improving their health, but they don't follow through. This is actually a big, is kind of the mass of the people is there in the middle, or for different aspects of your life. Maybe, for some people it's about improving the sleep, for some other people it's about losing weight. But, for some aspect of your health, the mass of the people is there in the middle. So that's our ideal customers. People who actually like have the intent to do more exercise, improve their health, but they don't follow through. And then within that kind of a bucket, what we identify is like two or three like kind of sub ideal customers in there. One is like what we call the urban parents. So the urban parents, they went through like, having new kids and they want to get back into shape. So they have the intent of going back into shape, but they are so busy, they need convenience. And they have so many things to think through already in their new life, that if you can help them decide like what should be the next steps, and help them reduce the barrier for these next steps, that might be just like helping you meal prep or helping you decide what video to do as an exercise. So this is a good target for us. And the other target are the other people who are in their fitness journey, but more at the start. Like I was saying earlier, we're not targeting the athlete who already like, go and do sport like 5 times a week, but people who do 1 time a week or 0 times a week, but have the intent to do more. Those are like good target audience. We are exploring a third one already, because we have good feedback from people who have chronic disease, because for them, changing their lifestyle is actually necessary, right? So that's another group we're exploring.
That's great. And when you're, now that you've identified these groups, how does Lemon Health actually help them? Like, what does the product look and feel like? Is it a chat interface? Is it a virtual, like, sort of avatar that talks to them? Is it plugged into, graphs and data? Yeah, tell us a bit more about what do users see when they log into Lemon Health?
Yeah, so this is a health companion that helps you decide what to do and help you lower the barrier of what to do. And what to do might be things that range from watching a video and following the instructions, or that might be booking a wellness appointment, or that might be about like reading the right research that just pop up and that matters for you. Like any kind of actions that matter for your health goals, we proactively show it to you. So how do we show it proactively to you? It can come through notifications, it can come in your calendar, it can come in your email, or you open Lemon Health as an app as well, and then you can see like what you're supposed to focus on today. And the way that it works, is like in order to show you the right actions of what you need today, we really need to understand you. So we need to understand your lifestyle, your problems. So we have different agents, that kind of monitors your locations and extract insight after that. Other that extract insight out of your calendar. Other that extract insight out of your health profile. Other out of your tracker data and so on. And then we also have agents that extract information out of the real world around you, like in your location. What are the right wellness providers for you? What are the right doctors for you? What are on the web? What are the new videos that matters and that you should read? What is the new research that you should read? Right. So we have a bunch of agents kind of analyzing your world, the world around you, and then also know about your past activity, like what have you done and what have you not done, and then optimize like the next set of actions I deliver to you. And the optimization metric, what is interesting is like we optimize for you to actually take an actions, So it's not like, oh, I've read or I enjoy my chat. It's like, do you actually do something in your life? This is kind of an optimization metric.
I love that. And I want to dig into the idea of like these multiple agents. So it sounds like without Lemon Health, I would have to be keeping up on the research myself, maybe planning like, okay, I need to go get a checkup about this, a stat about my body. I need to go schedule an appointment with a doctor, and then I need to make sure I still get to yoga on time and figure out what's the right type of yoga for me. All of those things you'd have to spend time doing. Instead, you have multiple agents on Lemon Health that do that. Let's get a little bit into the technical side there. I'm making a guess based on how you explained it. It sounds like this might be a multi-agent architecture. Can you tell us a bit about the high level of we don't have to go too deep into the weeds, but like how have you found the best way to build a system that sounds pretty multifaceted? It's not just like giving you an update about the weather. It's doing all sorts of things across calendar, email, etc. Do you just have one agent that handles that? Do you have multiple? Does one orchestrate it? There's all sorts of different architectures people are trying out. What's been working for Lemon Health?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I would say, skills like that we go through, right? I mean, extracting information out of your GPS data is different than extracting information out of your calendar, right? And because those are skills that are very different, and therefore, like for each of these specific skills, we have an agent. So I explained how we have like different agents for your inputs. But we also have like for the output, we also have different specialized agents. So let's say if I give you strengthening exercise to build muscles, right? The output is going to be very different if I'm helping you schedule your next appointment with the doctor, or it's going to be very different of the output to improve your mental well-being, right? So because like the quality and how you eval the output is different, and it's much easier to handle this complexity when you go kind of like vertical by vertical. So each individual agents, have their own evals that we go through. And then so we have like on the input, a bunch of agents, then on the output as well, a bunch of agents like I'm describing at the moment. And then in the middle of that, of course, we have a lot of orchestrations, right? On top of the orchestration, we also, as we have the orchestration to take the right number of proactive, actionable recommendation we give to the users, right? We need to decide if you give 3, 4, 5, and then like from which of these specialized sub-agents, let's say the strengths agent give you 5 ideas, the multi-wellbeing agent give you 3 ideas. The appointment management give you like 5 ideas. Which one do you take on a given day so that it doesn't overwhelm the user, right? So we have some kind of the orchestration deal with that, as well as another agent that is out there as the judge. Like the final output, is that good, yes or no, and then like criticize the output, and then we can run back into the system to improve that. There's also a layer of memory that is important. So as part of the memory is like, are we taking into account the previous feedback of the users in our output? Are we taking into account the level of difficulties, for some exercise where the user is at? Because I don't want to give you like exercises or tasks that are like way too complicated for you if you're still like the start. And then also we try to respect your frequency. So let's say if you are a very active user, so you might want to have a lot of more recommendations, or on every day having like some tasks for you. But if you are not very active, we need to understand that, and also like chill out.
Kind of warm you up. Yeah. So when it comes to memory, I think that's a pretty interesting place to start, because a lot of people are talking about it. It obviously like makes sense why logically memory is important. If a user tells you something and you immediately forget it, that's going to be frustrating. But I can imagine memory is kind of complicated in a multi-agent system that you're talking about. 2 questions for you there. Number 1, do you have a shared memory across these agents? And number 2, when did you realize you needed memory? Like, do you think that all agent products need it from day one, or did it take some time before you guys decided, okay, our system's complex enough that it needs memory now?
Yeah, I think it was from day one. Also part of my experience, I was on the team that was leading personalization for Gemini. So how do you personalize Gemini based on the millions of data that Google knows about you, right? So as you try to create a personalized product, a health companion is very personalized. And if we don't give you personalized suggestions, then people are just going to ignore it. It's just, that doesn't apply to me, right? So this level of personalization was important from day one. So therefore, memory was very important. On the memory side, different agents need different level of information. Let's say like to extract insight out of your GPS. I don't need to have all of your context as a human, but some part of the context about you is still useful, right? So for the different agents in the system, they get access to different part of the memory and the user persona that we create for each user. Yeah.
At its core, how would you describe memory to someone who, like, we all have an idea as humans, like what memory is, but what do you see as the best way to implement memory for agents? Is it just like a piece of text that gets inserted into the prompt or into the context window of the agent, or is it something more complicated? What have you seen work when it comes to actual memory implementation methods?
I would say it depends like what part of the memory we're talking about, right? There is some set of memories like user express on April 1st, I had a back pain, right? And then we need to adapt about that. So here, what we need to remember is like, what's the event, and then what's the date, and then we might use that as part of the context. But there are some memories, that are relevant because they're fresh, and then some that not relevant anymore because they're very old, right? But then there are others that are very old, but they're still persistent, right? So we need to have a categorization between like what is persistent versus what is just temporal, and then how long do we need to use these informations, and how do we adapt to this learning throughout time. So there's a bit of that. Then there are also other part of, you can call like as part of your user persona. Let's say if we extract insight out of, let's say your GPS that you actually and your step count that you're working a lot, right? How do we use and make a summary of these informations that we can pass in the context of the agents, right? There's different methods we can do. One is we could just pass the raw data of all your position or all your steps, over the last X days to every agent. But then you get with like a lot of informations that need to be understood, through the agent, because it's quite costly to send a lot of token, right? Or you can like create an insight about that, over the last 3 days that that user was active, so we have like an agent that just, extract the insight and then give this piece of, you could call that memory or not memory, but this piece of the user persona back to the other agents. So I would say, depending on the quality of the memories you're trying to work with, you probably need to have like different techniques.
Makes sense. So it sounds like, it's not just dump all the data you have about a person into the context of the LLM. It might be summarize the data first, or pick out the pieces that matter. Some of it needs to be categorized. I like that idea. I haven't heard of that before, like the concept of categorizing memories, because some might be things that need to be repeated or given to an agent every single time across all agents, and some might not be relevant. I could ask you questions on this forever, but we're getting close to time. So I want to wrap up with a final question before we put your website up on the screen. Voker's an agent analytics platform. So we ask everyone this: how do you, now that you guys are in production, there's a lot of companies that still aren't, don't have experience, like they're still in the pilot phase or MVPs of building agent products. And once they get to production, they're always surprised at how many ways people use AI, right? Like you might not have expected for it. You might not have evaled for it. How do you guys approach keeping track of, are your agents working? What are users asking them to do? And having that, inform your product roadmap and your agent optimization.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really important is before you even like create the agent is having in mind or having laid out like how you're going to eval. Because if you don't evaluate like the output, then you just navigate in the dark. You don't know where you're going. So we have evals that are set out, like evals to say, do we have the right format? Is the length of the recommendation good enough? Are the links working? Are user taking actions on that output, right? So there's all kind of evals that you can put out there. Is it a safe output and so on? So placing these evals and then like evaluating them, measuring them each time that you make a modification to your AI system or your agentic system. It's like, how does that impact these evals? And then you can, therefore, like you move from moving in the dark, and just improving based on like, I would say just like, a few user reports to actually have a much more methodic approach. So I think setting up your eval system is very important there.
And I think the key is what you said there is set it up before you build, because, you can set up evals after you have your agent in production, and then you're like just testing everything that you've ever thought of or seen, and that gets overwhelming. But if you have an idea of like, this is the purpose of this agent or this sub agent, I want to make sure it's doing that ahead of time. That really can set you up better for success. That's great. I want to put your website up on the screen before we have to go real quick. For those listening in, that's lemonhealth.ai, and maybe tell the audience a bit who should check it out. How do they follow along? How do they try out the product?
I would say like anyone who want to improve their health, people who want to move from like the generation 1 of wellness product that just give you insight to the generation 2 of health product that is much more proactive and help you as a real companion. These are the people who check that out. Yeah, and we are launched on iOS, we're looking to have some feedback. Just don't hesitate to contact us.
Amazing. So it sounds like you can go right to the App Store and download Lemon Health. Deniz, it's been great to have you on. Thank you for being so generous with your insights and your time, and sharing what's worked for you guys. Sounds like a few key things that we learned today. Number one is really break up your agent architecture. I like that you have like this input sort of category of agents and then the output category, because they serve different purposes. Within them, there's maybe multiple sub agents. And because you designed it that way, you can make, like you said, these evals for every single sub agent and what it needs to do. And then on top of all of that, a customizable memory system that, puts memory where it needs to be. So maybe certain agents get certain info and certain ones don't need it. Sounds like a very advanced architecture you guys have set up. And thank you for sharing all those learnings with the group.
Awesome. Thank you for this time.
Of course. And to those listening in, thanks for tuning in again. And if you're building something, go ship it. We'll see you next time. Bye now.